The Mercedes Formula One team has revealed that it's already began, in its own words, finding really big steps of performance at its factory after having committed to a new change of direction in its Formula One car approach for this season's W14. This comes after a couple of opening lackluster rounds to the 2023 championship, where they have come to the realization that their zero pod concept is just not going to cut it. This news comes courtesy of team principal Toto Wolff at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. And while talking about these big steps of performance, he even cheekily hinted that Red Bull could put a sticker on the car after the W14 has undergone its transformation within the next 5 to 7 races. So this gives a clear indication of where exactly the timeline is when it comes to these changes, but also the direction that they have taken, which I don't think was one we needed any sort of hints about which direction they would be going in, considering the success of the top two teams in Formula One this season, with them of course being that of Red Bull and Aston Martin. Now, with the team having committed to its action plan that will trigger these changes of concept as they move away from the zero pod design, they are under no illusions that it's going to take a long time for it to make the progress it thinks it needs to make to be fighting at the front. But they of course have offered both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell some encouraging signs. But before revealing what that is, if you're new around here and enjoying this video so far, subscribe to the channel as I'll be doing a giveaway throughout the Australian Grand Prix weekend, where I will be giving free subscribers team wear from their favourite Formula One team. Terms and conditions will be released in my next Formula One video on the channel, so be on the lookout for that. Right, let's get on with these glimmers of hope Toto has for Lewis and George. It is a big step in relative performance to where we are now, explained Wolff. The kind of gains that are coming in our research and development and in aero are much bigger than we've had over a long time. So we've unlocked some potential because we are simply looking at things from different angles now. We have a different perspective because of our learnings of the Bahrain test and race. There was no step back. On the contrary, there was immediately 2 steps forward. Now this statement really got me wondering just what had they been doing in the off-season, because to me this states the team were absolutely convinced and under no illusions as to the fact that that concept was going to be it for them. They thought with absolute certainty the zero pod design would bring them back to the front for this season. But for me, this is absolutely stupid to go down one route. Did they not at any point during the off-season think, let's run a few simulations with the other car designs? Let's see whether we're getting any bigger gains from doing so, and then, compare them with that of their zero pod, as they'd gotten so much data throughout the 2022 season to compare with anything that they would have been running, like say with the Red Bull design or the Ferrari design. Because to me, just to be so narrow-minded and focused entirely on your own individual design is a flawed approach. You have to look at things from every single angle, and maybe the statement that Toto made is not giving the full picture, and that they actually did. But from his, comments about having found big gains straight away, to me this seems like the team were absolutely just focusing on the zero pod design and didn't run any simulations whatsoever with the other car concepts that they saw were so successful in the hands of the Red Bull and to a lesser extent Alpine last season. For me, this means certain team members' heads would have to roll that are in kind of the key significant places in terms of the management structure, because why run a team like that? You've seen quite clearly throughout the entirety of the season that you had a very uncompetitive car when you compared it against the field, let alone the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari. And at only one Grand Prix weekend did you actually have what you would consider to be the quickest car, and that was at Brazil. So that's one race weekend out of 20 odd. I think that's not a good sample size to go running off of when you come to designing a follow-up car like the W14. It's very intriguing to me if the statement is completely true and the way it was worded by Toto and stated by him. But yeah, that's just my take on that point. Anyway, let's jump back on with the other quotes he did have to say about this change in approach. Because of course, while much of the focus of concept talk at the team has revolved around, of course, the change of how the car is going to look to the eye, notably with the change in side pod designs, with them now having seemingly been going down the route of the Red Bull, this actually isn't the main point of this change. The main point of change of direction for Mercedes relates more to the setup window of where the W14 runs in with relation to the ground. We've been too low last year and we've been too high this year, and now we believe we know what to land on. On the other side, then obviously everything else follows in terms of floor and bodywork that you want to achieve. So I don't want to sound too foolishly optimistic, but at least we see low-hanging fruits with things that are encouraging. So as alluded to, everything that's being changed on the car in the next 5 to 7 races is all to do with the setup window, but also just how low they can run the car. Now, naturally, Toto Wolff would go on to state that the car is going to be looking very different, but the only reason behind the change in this look is all to do with the aerodynamic surfaces that are going to be visible. There's going to be massive amounts on the floor, obviously with the ground effect car, and then there's many more architectural things that are necessary in order to do things more efficient. So it's literally the car being turned upside down at the moment, and there's a lot of goodness that they see. When pushed on the upturn in performance that they saw during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Toto Wolff remained absolute in his desire for the team to up and change the entire design philosophy of the W14. Toto stated, "We're looking at benchmark performance, and that is Max and Sergio, and it's just too far away, so that hasn't changed. I think if Max would have finished qualifying, the gap would have been even bigger. We have seen in other long runs too, so my state of mind hasn't changed a millimeter just because we are P3, which is now P4 after the bullshit that went on with the FIA. But the difference is that the trajectory is set now, so it's not anymore this single session, single qualifying, or even a single race. We are just storming full steam ahead now, changing things on the W14. Right guys, that is the video. I hope you've all enjoyed it and it's been informative to you. If you have, leave a like, comment anything you have down below, and I will catch you all in another Formula 1 video.